feel it? Are you ready? It's time. Maximum alert, baby. Buckle up. You're ready, dude. I can feel you quaking. You're desperate for it, pleading. Ethan, what's going on? I need the news. I need to know. What are the Jews doing? What is Trump doing? Why are there Mexicans everywhere? I'm here for you, baby. Let's go! All right, cut the music. I said cut the music. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Maximum Alert. I am your host, Ethan. I'm not going to tell you my last name, even though I do it several times on this specific podcast. And I have one episode up. Not going to tell you which one where I do it, and you can find my full last name. I forgot which one it is, so I can't take it down. I'm not listening to them through. So be it, dude. We got a big show today. Always with the big show. Big shots coming at you. I'm going to take my headset. No, I'm going to keep my headset on. I thought I was going to take it off, but I'm going to keep it on. All right. Today, what's on the docket? We're a one-topic show today. One topic, a big topic, the biggest topic, the greatest topic. What's going on with your money, dude? What's going on with the economy? There's a lot of hearsay out there about the Trump economic plan, about certain aspects of the Trump economic plan, and that's what we're going to tackle today. What is Donald Trump doing? What is his plan? All right, now I don't know for sure, but given the total, if you take the holistic sort of agenda and look at it, then I think you can discern a pretty good idea of what he's actually trying to accomplish here. And so that's what we're going to cover today, because I see a lot of noise about this, and I think if you take a large, like if you see the whole picture, I think that's very encouraging. I think that I think we are on the horizon of something great. There's ladybugs all over my office, crawling all over me at all times. It's very distracting. If you see the plan holistically, if you get a vision of what he's trying to do, I think it's very encouraging. I think it's very white-pilling. I think you will understand that we are on the verge of something great. It might be rocky getting there. There's a lot of indicators that we might be on the verge of the next Great Depression, which, I mean, if that happens, it needs to. So we're gonna dig through it, guys. Sorry, everybody wants the king's attention today, bro. I'm getting the ladybugs all over me. I'm getting phone calls, scam likely. Everybody wants a piece of the king. So I mean, I think let's just dive right into it. Let's go. Number one. Here's the thing. We're gonna go subtopic by subtopic. We're gonna talk about tariffs. We're going to talk about land acquisition, being the Panama Canal, and Greenland, and Trump's crazy talk. This is crazy talk about taking Canada. That's crazy. We're talking about that too. And then we're going to talk about taxes. And we might even, well, actually, you know what? I'll structure this so that everybody understands what's going on. I do want to paint a juxtaposition between the Trump plan and the old way of doing things. And so we're going to do a little bit of history on this one. And I got a couple clips for you that I want to play that are despicable, but useful for you to understand, helpful for you to know and understand what's going on. And so we'll dive into kind of I'll give you the objective of this episode, which is if you go look at like Trump's immigration plan, this mass deportation thing, right? If you were to go even onto Twitter right now, or if you were to go to any of the mainstream news sources, all you're going to see is about how expensive this is going to be. Your groceries are going to get more expensive because we're not going to have ag workers. We're not going to have all this cheap labor, so everything's going to get more expensive. If you go to those same news sources, even a lot of like conservative, quote unquote, conservative people are not mainstream conservative people are dubious about Trump's tariffs, about this idea to start using tariffs all the time. And so my point is that if you look at these things in a bubble, if you look at the tariffs by themselves, then yeah, that sounds like a bad idea. If you look at the immigration deportation issue, that sounds, the numbers don't sound great. If you look at the, reacquisition of this adding Canada or adding Greenland or going and getting the Panama Canal, those sound ridiculous and strange and harebrained in a bubble. And so it adds stress. You are on my side of the aisle. You're a conservative. Your guy is in power. And now all you hear about is how your guy has these, sort of Napoleon-esque, bizarre desires for acquisition and conquering, and he's going to make everything more expensive. You know that that's not true, but it's hard to articulate why you know that. You know it in your bones, in your gut. You intuit that truth. You know that it's not true that these policies are bad, but it gives you, nonetheless, hearing all these people who position themselves as knowing more about the economy or knowing more about money than you do. They position themselves that way, and they tell you that it's bad. It's going to create this cognitive dissonance in you. It's going to create anxiety. And this episode, I hope, will appeal a lot of that stress, because we're going to break a lot of this stuff down, okay? And I'm going to start this by telling you, we're going to start with the tariffs, because I think the tariffs is a great example here. So Trump's idea, let me pull up my packet, my official as a whistle. Where did it go? I lost it. I found it. We're good. Here it is. So Trump said some crazy stuff, right? He said some crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff, man, out here. 100% tariff on Mexican-made cars is one of the crazy things that he's put out there, right? So, and I think that this is a great, like, if we're going to zoom in on the tariffs for a second, we can talk about this 100% tax on a Mexican-made cars. Right now, if you go to CNBC, CBN, CNN, blah, 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 ABCD, JFK, LMNOP, whatever, you go to one of these news sites. You go to the Guardian, you go to some news site in the UK. It doesn't matter where you go. Even on X, if you're on one of these news sources, they're telling you that at 100% tariff on Mexican-made cars is going to drive up the price of your car, because Toyota makes their cars in Mexico. There's a lot of cars being made in Mexico. Let's even look it up. Let's look it up, dude. Let's look it up. Who makes their cars in Mexico? Who makes their cars in Mexico? GM, Toyota, Nissan, Volkswagen, Audi, BMW, and Honda are just a few of the brands that make their cars in Mexico. Okay, so if you're gonna, their argument is if you're gonna buy one of those cars and it's made in Mexico after Trump's tariff, it's gonna cost 100%. It's gonna cost double the price. You can't afford that. You already can't afford a new Sequoia, a new Tundra, whatever. You can't afford a new one of those. Now it's double. It's double. What are you going to do then when it's double? Well, here's the thing. If you take all of Trump's agenda, his economic agenda, into account, then the 100% tariff is actually great. It's actually amazing. Why is that? That is because you have to ask yourself, why does it make sense economically to create cars in another country? Why does it make sense economically to make American cars in Mexico? You have to ship them here. You have to get them past customs. You have to build new factories. Why is that less expensive than to just do it here in America? Well, what they would like to tell you is that Americans won't work for cheap enough. Americans won't work for cheap enough, so you have to go get cheap labor somewhere else, which we've talked about this before on this show. We've talked about it on Work Hard. You get what you pay for. I think I mentioned this on my last on the last Maxim Alert, but just in case I didn't, I'll say it again. I just got a diesel. It's my first diesel truck. All right. So I've been learning about diesel maintenance, whatever. I came across this guy. I won't name him. Don't want him to get drawn into, ultra racism, man. But I just got a diesel. And so I'm doing all this diesel research, and I come across a shop that builds diesel motors and for old like Fords and old Dodges and stuff like that. It'll rebuild their engines or build you a new one. And this guy went this whole video about how it used to be very easy to work with these vendors who would sell him engine parts that were high quality and reliable and that he knew would work. But recently, in the past 10 years, he has been having to scramble around trying to find new vendors who can get him reliable, well-made engine parts because it's getting harder and harder to do so. Why is that? It's because people are having these engine parts made in Mexico or made in third world countries or made by third worlders for cheap because they'll work for cheaper. But guess what happens when you find people that work for cheaper? They make cheaper shit. Who would have thought? Everybody knows that. Everybody knows you get what you pay for. So that's problem number one, right? You're getting a cheaper car. That's problem number one with this. Americans won't work for cheap. Yes, they won't work for cheap, but you know what Americans do? They make good stuff. They make high quality items. That's why people have this like subconscious. They subconsciously identify quality with the tag "Made in America." How many ads do you see today online? You're watching football, whatever, where it's like it's a retail product, clothing, a watch, a belt, some kind of ring, something for your car, a car, whatever, and part of the marketing is that it's made in the U.S. How many times have you seen that? I see that almost every time I see an ad today. I see made in the U.S. And that's not just ads on the internet that are targeted towards me specifically. I'm talking about like general ads. I'm sitting in a bar watching a soccer game or something, and the ad comes up and it's got the big Made in America stamp at some point in the ad. Because people care about that. People identify that manufacturing goods in America means the good is going to be, or has a higher percentage chance that the good is going to be higher quality. And so this idea that Americans you don't work for whatever. You got to charge a higher price. Sure, maybe you have to charge a higher price for the product, but if it's made in America, it'll work for longer. It's of more value. So this like buying Chinese crap, like recycled plastic pieces of crap, kitchen appliances that are going to break in 2 years and you got to get a new one. Is it really cheaper? Is it really cheaper to have to replace everything all the time? Is that actually cheaper? Or is it more expedient? So that foundational argument of American workers won't work for cheap enough it's a facile argument. It's a fallacy. It doesn't actually matter. People will pay more for a product that lasts longer, a product that they don't have to think about. And they get more value out of it because it's worth that much money. So that's one of the key arguments that you need to consider here. But also, this 100% tariffs. Why is it cheaper to make cars in Mexico? Why is it actually cheaper? Right? Because you still have to pay for all the shipping. You have to ship these cars overseas if you're having them made in China or whatever. You have to ship fruits and vegetables and stuff from overseas. Why is it cheaper to make all this stuff outside of the U.S. and load it onto giant tankers and spend all the money on fuel and importation and running ports and all this stuff? Why is it cheaper to do that than it is to just manufacture this stuff in the U.S.? I'll tell you right now, it's excuse me, guys. Give me 1 second. Inhaled a little spit there. It is so expensive to import these goods. It's so much more expensive to import these goods than it would be to just pay Americans to manufacture them. That can't be that's not the answer. It's not that Americans are entitled and won't take cheap enough pay. That's not what it is. What it is that the government has its thumb on everyone's head. It has its thumb on everyone, its boot on everyone's throat, their head, whatever. It has the thumb on the scales. You get what I'm trying to say. You understand what I'm trying to say here, all right? I'm sorry. I'm tired. It's the end of the day. I haven't had enough nicotine. I haven't had enough sleep. I'm grinding, okay? The regulatory environment in the U.S. has been designed to harvest the wealth of the American worker. It has been designed to protect the largest producers in the U.S. The reason why there is so much regulation in the reason why it's cheaper to export labor and to have cars made in America or made in Mexico is because the regulatory environment is so burdensome here. Okay? The price is synthetically increased by regulation. And it's stuff as simple as, these green policies that require engines to be overly complex and underperform. And it's very hard to manufacture this stuff. It's very expensive to manufacture this stuff. And if in America you have to make these Green New Deal sort of adjustments to your car that already make the car expensive, and then you have to layer on top of that in the U.S. you have all these Green New Deal policies that require the manufacturing of the car itself to have new layers of technology involved, and the emissions of the factory have to be low, and the energy consumption of the factory has to be, from a certain amount of green energy has to be used at this facility, and the only way you can power those plants is using inefficient green energy that's exorbitantly expensive. These problems are created synthetically by regulation. I'm doing a terrible job right now of kind of painting this picture for you because I am very tired, and I do apologize for that. But just kind of bear with me. Maybe use some suspension of disbelief or whatever. I don't know what the term is. Not suspension of disbelief. I'm not asking you to believe something that isn't true. But try to fill in the gaps here a little bit. These policies are choking American industry. It is the government that is choking American industry. And so Trump has this policy of cutting 10 regulations for every new one. Every single year, I wish I could show you this picture. I have it up, but I can't because it's a podcast, obviously. But it's a picture of the tax code that's been introduced. Not tax code, sorry. The total regulatory, it's books of all the new legislation and regulations that have been introduced in the year 2024, and it is like several inch thick tomes. And there's a bookshelf of them, like a 2 foot wide, 4 foot tall bookshelf full of the new regulations that have been introduced into the American system, economic, social, whatever. It's all these new laws that have been introduced in the U.S. just last year. Okay? Now, you might say that big business is disincentivized to allow this to happen, right? They don't want to be regulated, but that's not true. They do want to be regulated because these regulations create such a large financial burden that they are the only ones who can afford to work within them. You have to have hangars full of lawyers and compliance people to deal with these regulations and decide whether or not you're in compliance. And so these large like the big car companies, they love the fact that they have to go manufacture in Mexico because no one can compete with them. You can't try to start a car. Could you imagine that? That sounds impossible, right? You know that intrinsically, that trying to go start a car company, a car manufacturer would take it must be billions of dollars, at least hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. You can't start a car company in your garage. That's not possible. You can't even start, you You probably can, but it's extremely. The only thing you can start today is like an internet business that's basically just like a bolt-on middleman for Chinese retailers, right? You just go to some Chinese company, you figure out, oh, I want a shirt that says this. Yes, sir, we can make it for you, and it's just drop shipping effectively. Like every new company today is just a drop shipping company. Hyper Premium, where our business model effectively is to do everything that we can just do in our living room, which is podcasting at this point, to get to go make money. So it just, starting a new business, being competitive to these large manufacturers, these large companies, it's impossible because of these regulations. So the government loves it because the United States government has been since the 20s oriented towards harvesting the wealth of the American worker and passing it on to a very small group of people. And so it's fulfilling its role by all these regulations, and the corporations love it because no one can compete with them. No one could possibly operate in this environment without having at least hundreds of millions of dollars. And who has hundreds of millions of dollars? They do. That's it. That's just them. They control it all. So Trump's idea here is not just to introduce tariffs on imports, thus driving the price of everything up. No, Trump's idea is to levy tariffs on imports while making it cheaper and easier to manufacture and create and innovate and disrupt in the U.S. So it makes everything cheap, everything outside more expensive, and everything inside cheaper. That means more jobs for U.S. citizens. That means more money in your pocket. It means higher quality goods for not that much more expensive. Okay? It means being able to buy a car you can work on in your garage again. All right? Try to go get a new car and replace an alternator or something. I mean, you need a special computer program to get it to unlatch the bolts or whatever. I mean, that's not literally true, but it's that complicated. It might as well be that complicated. It is that complicated. It might as well be that problem. So Trump's idea here, you can't look at these policies in a bubble. And that's what they want you to do. They don't want you to see the back end of what Trump is doing, which is bringing industry to the US. Okay? And that is that kind of leads into the picture I want to paint, the narrative I want to weave for you, the story I want to tell you is the story of the American economy and how it has been radically altered from being an economy created by Americans for Americans to an economy co-opted by very wealthy bankers, by Jews and Anglos and former European royalty. It's just, whatever. Because you can go read Tragedy and Hope. Jay Dyer's got a great lecture on it. For $30, you can go get Jay Dyer's 16-hour lecture series on what Tragedy and Hope is. I recommend that to everybody. Go. He's way smarter than I am. Covers it there. So I won't delve into all that here, but you can see the 1920s as this marker. The early 19th century, 20th century, sorry. The early 20th century as the marker of when the U.S. went from being a country, a nation that was focused on its people, to an economic zone that was designed to harvest the wealth from the most productive group of people that have ever existed, which is white Protestants. All right? To harvest their wealth, to harvest their production, and move it from them to everyone else. And they've got tons of different reasons to do that, not least of which is just their own personal gain in, their own personal financial gain. But there's a great chess game at play here. Okay. So this story that I want to weave you is the transition from America being America to America, the corporation. And America, the corporation, their product is your money. That's their product. That's what they're selling to the rest of the world, is your money. They are taking it from you and selling it. And Trump is trying to undo that. Now he's in a complicated spot because the Federal Reserve exists and the American debt is so high that if you were to you would cause an economic collapse by trying to undo this stuff in a direct way. If you were to just abolish the Fed and get rid of income tax and all this stuff, you would cause an economic collapse. So Trump is trying to accelerate the American economy such that it surpasses the rate of inflation. It makes up for the inflation that's happened over the past 100 years, and everyone starts making more money. Enough, and that's his idea of abolishing income tax. He's just going to give everybody a flat 30% raise across the board. I think the average American pays 15% in income tax a year. Imagine what you would do with an extra 15%. If you make $50,000, if you make $55,000 a year, a 15% cut on your taxes, a 15% raise is more than $5,000 a year, which is, by the way, the deficit that the average American is running right now. They make $5,000 less than they spend every year right now, and that's going on credit cards. And that's not, and I don't mean that's on going to the movies and going out to eat and buying clothes. That's most Americans have a $50,000 or a $5,000 deficit just to pay their rent, their bills, and get groceries. Okay? So if Trump cuts income tax, that gap's closed, and now all of a sudden people can afford to live. And when people can afford to live, and then all of a sudden their job makes them a little bit more money, and they can go get better jobs. There's better job opportunities here. They can go get higher paying jobs. All of a sudden they have more money to spend. And that money gets into the economy, and the economy starts moving again. And the GDP goes up. All right, the GDP goes up. And here's the thing. When people start to spend money in the U.S., the number one consumer economy on the planet, the number one consumer market on the planet gets better and better and better. And now all of a sudden you're China and you can't afford to go sell your products somewhere else because now there's a tariff in the U.S., right? That's another one of these arguments about these tariffs is that the U.S., these countries are going to pass this. They're going to pass the costs on to you, these Chinese manufacturers. So the tariff it's not going to have any effect on them. It's just going to be a problem. It's going to be your problem. Well, here's the thing. If you can now make American goods in America cheaply, China can't sell their pieces of crap technology to you at a premium because you can at a higher. So the tariffs China cannot afford to pass on the expenses of these tariffs to you because American manufacturers can now afford to make American goods cheaper. And so why would you pay more money for a crappier product if you can pay less money for a better product? China will not be allowed by market forces to pass on the cost of tariffs to you. They will have to eat those costs. It will bite into their revenue because they will either not be able to sell here or they will try to sell here at a higher rate and they won't be able to sell here anyways because no one will buy their stuff. So they will have to take the hit to their revenue and they will not be able to afford to not sell here. That won't be an option because the American consumer market will grow. Because you have less regulatory burden, less tax burden, everything's cheaper, people are getting paid more money. So you just can't leave that cash on the table. You have to sell here. You're forced to sell your goods here at a cheap price in order to beat out the premium American products. You're going to have to charge everything. Everything will get cheaper. All the cheap shit you have to buy right now that you're forced to buy at a premium because the economic system is designed to mess with you, all that stuff will get cheaper, as it should. And then there will be the premium American product that can be made or that can be purchased at a premium. That won't even be that much more because, again, it's going to get cheaper to manufacture here. So that's the narrative here. That's what's really happening with the Trump economic plan. His plan is to accelerate the U.S. such that we out-earn the inflation of the past 100 years, or the past 50 years, whenever we got taken off the gold standard. It's to out-earn that, and to increase the GDP through that, through the production. Now, there's no income tax, right? Let's just say there isn't. Now, Trump's talked about that. He isn't committed to that. He said he's going to look at it. He said he's very seriously considering it. But these tariffs, all right, now you have all these countries that have to sell into the U.S., and they have to let these tariffs eat into their pockets, their revenue. They can't drive prices up. That's where the U.S. makes a tremendous amount of money, is now you're forcing all these countries to, all these companies in foreign countries to sell into the U.S., and Trump gets to gouge them at the door. The price of entry is high. And so the U.S. starts making way more money than it did before off of American income tax. Off these tariffs, it's going to be making way more money. Okay? Now, Trump's talking about the Made in America tax, this 15% tax. Right now, the corporate tax rate's 21%. He's going to drop it to 15%. So now you've got countries that are headquartered in other places coming home. Business being done here at a higher rate. Now, the other thing that's important is that every other country on the planet uses tariffs way more liberally than the U.S. does. We use them now, but in very, very sparsely to protect certain companies from foreign competition. That's the only reason we use tariffs now. Japan has a flat rate tariff for all goods coming in. China has a flat rate tariff for all goods coming in. Everybody uses tariffs. Everybody uses tariffs. Everybody but us. Because again, the American political and economic system is designed to mess with you. It's designed to harvest your wealth and send it to Bakway, China, whatever. It's designed to put it in the pocket of Ubuntu in Africa via rice or whatever. I mean, it's not for you. The American economic system is not for you. It is for other people. And that's the point. And more nefarious than that, I want to play you a little clip, all right? I talk about this clip a lot. I'm sure I've said it a million times on Work Hard and here and anywhere else I've talked publicly. But this is a real mask-off moment, this clip I'm about to play for you. So this is Mike Bloomberg, one of the richest people on the planet. He's not really, because there's way richer people in here and you're not allowed to know about them. But this is him speaking at the IMF, right? This is the International Monetary Fund. This is one of the largest, most powerful organizations on the planet. They do a ton of the financial planning for organizations. They issue out tons of loans. It's a complex thing, and maybe one day I'll have a whole episode about the IMF to explain what exactly it is that they do. But just understand that if somebody is on stage with Christine Lagarde at the IMF talking about something and they're making declarative statements on stage, you can be sure that that is the policy of the IMF, which means it's the policy of every government on the face of the planet. So here's Mike Bloomberg, former mayor of New York, one-time presidential candidate, overall piece of shit, demon worshiper, talking about how countries actually, what taxes are actually for.
And I know you're extremely active. How do you have this sort of tailored approach per country, per nature of audience that you deal with?
Well, Bloomberg Philanthropies gives a lot of money to fight non-communicable diseases, and each country, as you point out, is different. Social mores are different. The impact of taxes is different, and taxes are one of the real reasons, real ways you influence people to do what's in their own interest, but where they might not expect that. So if you want to get kids to stop smoking, raise cigarette taxes. And the more you raise them, the less they smoke. Now, some people say, well, taxes are regressive, but in this case, yes, they are. That's the good thing about them, because the problem is in people that don't have a lot of money. And so higher taxes should have a bigger impact on their behavior and how they deal with themselves. So I listen to people saying, oh, we don't want to tax the poor. Well, we want the poor to live longer so that they can get an education and enjoy life. And that's why you do want to do exactly what a lot of people say you don't want to do. The question is, do you want to pander to those people, or do you want to get them to live longer? And there's just no question. If you raise taxes on full sugary drinks, for example, they will drink less, and there's just no question that full sugar drinks are one of the major contributors to obesity, and obesity is one of the major contributors to heart disease and cancer and a variety of other things.
So there you go. That's what taxes are for. Taxes are not for governments to collect revenue. Taxes are to make you behave a certain way. That's what these people view taxes. That's how these people view taxes. So when you go on CNBC or wherever it is you go to get your news because you're retarded, I'm just kidding, you're not retarded. I know you. You're a smart guy. You're a good guy. You're driving a good car. You're going to work. You're not, sorry, I'm getting text messages again. I really got to get professional. You're a good guy. You're not retarded. You're not going to CNBC. You're going to DonaldTrump.com. You're going to alt-right news media central. You're going to where it matters. But anyways, if you're going to these, the dark corners of news media, the mainstream, and they start talking about how getting rid of income tax is actually bad, or we need taxes, they're defending this system. They're defending this system that's designed to harvest your essence, your wealth, your energy, move it away from you and move it to them and their friends. That's what it's for. So, of course, they don't want tariffs. Of course, they don't like the idea of their entire system having a huge wrench thrown into the middle of it, which is that all of a sudden you have to pay to sell to Americans as opposed to Americans paying a premium for you to sell to them. It's the reverse of what they want. And you have to look at it holistically. Trump's policy is to disassemble the current system and build a new one that's going to help you, that's going to fight for you, as opposed to fighting for Mingling and his Jewish friends. It's not the economic system is not for you. So that's the tariff angle. All right. And that's a great example of what we're talking about. We can dig into the next thing, which is so many messages. Oh my goodness. Where's my freaking packet? Where did it go? Here it is. Found it. There it is. All right. The land grab. Okay. Greenland. The Panama Canal. Invading Canada. All right. Now, first of all, Canada needs to be liberated. All right. It's covered in jeets. It's got Indian poop everywhere. We've got, I went to Toronto recently. Indians. I got kicked out of a bar for saying, "Where are all the Canadians?" And the lady said, "What are you talking about? They're here." And I went, "They don't look like Canadians." And then she told me she was going to call the police. So I left. Canada needs to be invaded. All right. They're in a bad way. They need our help. There's a couple things here. All right. Greenland, apparently part of I've heard this. Now I don't know anything about this. I've looked into this, that apparently underneath all the ice up there, there's mad resources. There's oil, there's minerals. Don't know if that's true. I mean, whatever. I watched the show Vikings. I saw all the volcanoes. Looks like there's probably some minerals up there. Let's go get them. They're not using them. They're building huts. Have you seen the way people in Greenland live? They live in trailers. They need our help. They need a big, gigantic Trump Tower right in the middle of it all. Yeah. But I think the real reason, so there's the real reason that we need to go get Greenland, the reason why we need to have either a very strong military alliance with Canada such that we can put troops in Canada en masse, and the reason why it's vital that we get the Panama Canal back under our control is because the world is about to become a much more conflict-heavy place. As the U.S. naturally becomes less global, less of a global power, and regional powers start to assert themselves like Russia and China and South American countries, as these regional wars start to break out and the grip on the earth that America has starts to slip, there are two places that matter the most to us, and that is the Northwest Passage and Panama, the Panama Canal, which helps us. We get to negate the Strait of Magellan with the Panama Canal. These are extremely vital, extremely important trade routes. Canada cannot defend the Northwest Passage from Russia. It does not have the capacity to do that. Canada does not have a military. Even if it had a military, it would be full of women and trans people that wouldn't be able to fire a gun. It would not be good. So someone has to be able to maintain control of one of the most important trade routes on the planet and keep it away from the hands of Russians and Chinese people. Okay, we don't want Slavs and Chinks running the Northwest Passage. It's not a good idea. They can barely drive boats. They can barely do math. This is not good. These are not the ethnic group you want trying to run things. Okay, you want good old-fashioned Anglo-Saxon Protestants with their hands on the levers. Okay. China now has several military bases on either end of the Panama Canal. They're in a position to basically deny the U.S. access to the Panama Canal if we entered into some hot war or a warm enough Cold War with them that became a problem. So the Panama Canal has to come under U.S. control. China has to be kicked out of Panama and the surrounding area. We need to regain control of that area for our economic and whatever. What do you call it? What's it called? Security. Your national security. Your national security. You need that. The Northwest Passage, the ice is melting up there, which is another thing we'll talk about at a later time. Ice is melting not because of global warming. Well, it's global warming, but global warming was it's natural. It's a carbon cycle. It just occurs. So the ice is melting on the Northwest Passage. It's becoming more and more of a legitimate trade route. And when it becomes a really legitimate trade route, we need to be the ones in control of it. We don't need Russians with military vessels and all kinds of stuff going on back and forth just north of us. It's not good. So we have to have control of that. And that's why Trump is talking about how important it is to gain control of Greenland and Canada. And I don't necessarily know. I know Trump was talking about military invasion or and whatnot, but that's obviously not serious. We need to have control of these areas. I mean, it's just that simple. It's just that simple. Trump is an American first guy. He's here for America. We have to drop this idea that America is supposed to be this benefactor of good for everyone but us. That Americans are supposed to enjoy a lower standard of living, are supposed to pay more money for things, that things should be worse for Americans so that they could be better for other people. One, because that idea, while noble, is a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie told to you so that people at the top can siphon your wealth and put it in their pockets. It never gets to Africa. All right? What is it? And even when it does get to Africa, what does it do? You have a billion more teeming mouths because we're sending them rice and beans or whatever, and they're miserable. So let Africa do Africa and let Americans do American things. We have to look out for America. And we can't look out for anybody if we're a destroyed husk of a nation. Who are we going to help? Who are we going to help if we can't afford to launch missiles? Who are we going to help if we can't send drones to Israel? Who's going to be helped? We have to help Israel. How are we going to support Israel if we don't have the money to support Israel? And that's the top priority. So listen, we need to get control of the Panama Canal for Israel. This is for Israel's good. Right? So now don't you feel good? You feel good now because I'm saying it's for Israel. Now you feel good. Now you're like, oh yeah, that's a good point. We should do that. We should carpet bomb all of Canada and deport every brown person for Israel. And when I say it's for Israel, now you feel happy. Now your guard's down. Now you're willing to listen to me. Isn't that funny how that works out? That's strange. That's odd that occurs to you. Yes, we have to save the Ukraine. We have to protect the Ukraine from the Northwest Passage. The Northwest Passage is of high importance to the Ukraine. So it's not these things that are being painted in the media as being, whoa, it's so kooky. Trump he's the new Mussolini or whatever. I hope he's the new Mussolini. What did they call Mussolini? They called him. Let me look it up. They gave him a sick name. They called Mussolini something awesome. What did they call Mussolini? El Duce, the leader. Trump's El Duce. That's what's up, dude. I'm El Duce. So Trump is El Duce, and I hope he puts boots on the ground in Canada, and I hope the Jeets are the first to go. Trudeau resigned. Oh yeah, this is another thing I wanted to talk about. Trudeau resigned. That's crazy, isn't that crazy? Trudeau resigned. Trudeau resigned because Trump is going to levy this 25% tax on all Canadian goods. And he knows so they had a financial report. All right. They had a financial report that they had to give this to the people. All right. It hit Trudeau's desk. He resigned. The next person to present it was like the financial administrator of Canada or whatever. He read the report. He resigned. Then the next person down read the report. She resigned. And the resignation is because they know that Canada can't pay a 25% tax. They can't financially afford it. So they might as well be absorbed into Canada anyways. That's why Canada might as well become the U.S. anyways. That's why Trump started talking about this, because he sat down with Trudeau. Trudeau told him, he said this, Trump claimed this at least. Trudeau told him, Canada can't afford a 25% tax. Our country will end. And then Trump said, well, why don't you just become part of the U.S. then? Because the 25% tax is coming. So why don't you just let us annex you? It's not crazy. All right? It's not crazy. It's not kooky. It's not out there. It's not outlandish. It's a good idea. For Canada, not for us, honestly. We just immediately find 1,000, a billion more Jeets. So that's it, guys. That's it. This is going to be a short episode today because I got to go work out. But you have to view these things holistically. This has been a bad episode. But that's okay. You can't win them all. They're not all going to be bangers. Don't let homosexuals tell you that Trump's ideas are bad. All right? When you're at work and you have some lady being like, he's going to kill trans people. Good. I'm just kidding. Not good. He's not going to kill anybody. Don't give into despair. All right. That's the essence of the entire thing, baby, of this whole show. Do not give into despair. These things are not crazy. They're not harebrained. Trump's not going to destroy stuff. I do think that we're going to, hit some more texts. There we go. More texts while I'm recording. I got to figure out how to mute these things. I think the road in the short term is going to be pretty rocky. But it needs to be. There has to be a fever to kill the virus. And I think if Trump has his way and the, Trumpian politics gets promulgated by Vance into the future for the next 16 years or whatever, then it's going to be great. And we are going to have a new renaissance in this country, and things are going to be awesome, and AI is going to help, and Bitcoin will drive, a whole new class of wealthy people, and it's going to be great. So just chill out. All right. Just chill out. You're going to be able to afford a house eventually. Yeah. Is it going to be a little later than your parents and their parents? Sure. But it's not the end of the world. All right. Trump's plan here is to get the economy moving so much that it's going to catch you up. So yeah, you're going to buy a house for the first time when you're 35, and that's going to suck. But you're going to be able to buy so much house when you're 35 that you skip the beginner house and you buy the house you would have bought when you were 35 if the economy was good anyways. All right, that's the plan. So chill out. All right, if he has his way, if this works, then things are great. Now, if he doesn't have his way, they set off a nuke in New Jersey or whatever, yeah, it's going to get weird. But you're going to have way bigger problems at that point anyways, so it doesn't even matter. So everybody can chill out, dude. That's the goal here. Chill out. Go, if you don't have a girlfriend, tough. But if you do, go hang out with your girl. Go hang out with your boys. Get a beer, whatever. Just chill out, man. Chill out and focus on your life. All right? Here's the thing. If you are about to enter into a roaring economy, a real roaring economy, not the fake roaring economy that we just had for the last 4 years, if you're going to hit a real roaring economy, you need to position yourself. You need to be in the middle of the river. You need to be where the money is flowing. Get to the money. Stand in front of the money and get as much of it in a bucket as you possibly can. So don't lament that you can't get a great job now. Instead, try your best to figure out what is going to be a great job when there are great jobs to have. All right, focus your energy on that as opposed to complaining about the fact that you don't have a great job, because that time is coming and you will get passed up if you spend all your time belly aching about how you can't afford rent or whatever. And I know it's hard. I've seen the conversation online, the discourse online. I know that's a hard pill to swallow, and I won't tell you that things aren't bad. There's a lot of boomers on the internet right now trying to tell you that things are not as bad as they seem, but they are as bad as they seem, and I understand how much that sucks. All right, I've been there. I slogged through it. All right, I got lucky. I made it out on the other end. I had a dad that had a lot of hookups, okay? So I got to come out of it earlier than most people do, but I've been there, all right? I spent 5 years in the trenches, not being able to afford shit, putting everything on credit cards, asking my parents for money, all right? I was there. Just don't give in. Do not give up hope. Be Frodo, dude. Just keep taking that next step. Do not give in. Look to the future. The future is bright. The future is beautiful. The future is full of hope for you and your friends. So don't pussy out. All right. I love you guys. I'm praying for you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.